I did it for The Rock.
Ah yes, the 90s. The Attitude Era, Davidoff Coolwater Cologne, Pontiac Trans Ams, and of course, you couldn't get away from Jennifer Aniston and Friends. But something added to this, and that was Stone Cold Steve Austin, that was The Rock, that was The Undertaker, that was Mankind, that was all these stars that made up possibly the best time in professional wrestling. Or sports entertainment. Vince McMahon, don't come for me. But amidst all the nostalgia, amidst all the amazing things that happened, there were some things that just don't really stack up today. Ask Stone Cold Steve Austin, as he called this the worst storyline ever. It consisted of taking a comedy star and making him a main event heel, which ultimately would backfire. But even still, it's remembered with a hint of nostalgia, but mostly, it was very absurd. So here's a story of the infamous I Did It for The Rock storyline, and why it was a lot worse than we ever thought it was. Now before we start, we have to take a look back at 1997, most notably SummerSlam 1997. Come with me as we see Owen Hart giving a power driver to Stone Cold Steve Austin, which almost ended his career right there and almost ended his life. But luckily, Stone Cold would tough it out. This was the era before we knew about CTE in football, professional wrestling, and any other contact sports. And people were just told to man it up, just drink that beer down and get back into the ring. The story and the show must go on. Now in this match, they would actually have to kind of figure out their own way to get it over with. Why? Well, Stone Cold was pretty much paralyzed in the ring. And at Survivor Series 1999, Stone Cold would be back. Yes, he would be back. The beer-drinking son of a gun is back, and he'd be hit by a hit-and-run driver. And the driver, of course, would be an unknown assailant, because, you know, they're just always unknown assailants, that's why we have insurance. But the actual reason was to write him off TV. And he would go out and get his much-needed neck surgery. He would be out for 10 months, and in this time, he would miss his first and only WrestleMania. To put this into perspective, Roman Reigns has main evented WrestleMania 7 times, which is the equal number of appearances Stone Cold Steve Austin has had just in general WrestleMania. Moving ahead a little bit, we get to Backlash in 2000, where Stone Cold would come back and help out The Rock. This would all be a one-off return. The Rock would dethrone Triple H for the WWF Championship. Stone Cold will return for good in September of that year. And when he got back, the first thing on his mind was, let me find that culprit, that unknown assailant who took me out, because my insurance claim is asking for names. Now, who better to investigate than Mick Foley? That's right, the best FBI agent ever. But the attack was done with The Rock's car. Now, all the signs pointed to it being The Rock, but guess what? Haha, it's not. And we know that the person that it really was, who was driving The Rock's vehicle, was none other than the best of all time, Rikishi. Yep, it's Rikishi. Rikishi did it. And guess what Rikishi did it for? Rikishi did it for The Rock. And Rikishi, being one of the first memes in WWF history, said the following: I did it for The Rock. Absolutely. That line right there should be in the Star Spangled Banner. Play the Star Spangled Banner. I did it for The Rock. I did it for the people. Now, why did Rikishi do it? Well, he wanted to bring prestige back to the family. And if you look at it, this was kind of the first bloodline. But The Rock was like, wait. The Rock didn't ask. And Rikishi was still like, did it for The Rock. And The Rock was like, wait a minute, dude, but I didn't ask. So then we come to this very weird crossroads where, why did Rikishi really do it? If he didn't really do it for The Rock, what or who did he do it for? And like WWF fashion, we would have to wait. But in the meantime, Stone Cold would try to murder Rikishi. Yes, that's right, TV-14 television at its best. And he would do this by trying to run Rikishi over at no mercy. Now, on the same night that Rikishi was almost murdered, he would go after The Rock. Because after being almost murdered, you figure, well, I'm gonna go after The Rock. And he would cost The Rock the WWF title. And this would be against Kurt Angle. And not too long after, Stone Cold would face Rikishi and Kurt Angle in a handicap match. And Triple H would come out seemingly to help, but guess what, Swerve? Nope, it was all a ruse. That's right, a ruse by Triple H, because we all know he's the greatest heel of all time, if you ask Vince and Stephanie. And it was revealed that Triple H was the mastermind behind all of it. That's my Triple H impression. Triple H was the mastermind behind all of this. He was the one in the car. He was the one who did the hit and run. And Rikishi, while he said he did it for The Rock, guess what? Rikishi did it for nobody. For nobody. Well, wait and see, because maybe. And none of this made any sense at all. Like, Triple H is just there, and he's gonna do the hit and run, and Rikishi's like, I did it for The Rock, and The Rock's like, wait a minute, I didn't even talk to you about this. And then Stone Cold's like, who hit me? Like, my insurance is still wondering who did this, so we can get some kind of claim out of this. What made it worse was Survivor Series 2000, a 35-minute no DQ match. Yes, a 35-minute no DQ match with Stone Cold and Triple H. Now, given on paper, still sounds a lot better than most of today's stuff, but I digress. The match ended no contest, all that wait for no contest. In the same event, Rikishi lost to The Rock. The Rock did it for the people. And like most things WWF, WWE, it just kind of fizzled out. Nothing really came of it. It just kind of was like, here it is, and then there it goes. And that was it. Although Rikishi did have his moment, because he would be featured in the all-important 6-man Hell in a Cell match, which involved Kurt Angle, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, The Undertaker, and of course, Rikishi. But this was one of my favorite memories when we talk about like hardcore moments in WWF. Because Rikishi would be thrown off the top of the cell into the bed of a truck which had hay in it. Hay. But I have to say, the hay looked amazing. It made everything look really, really good. Now from there, the feud would all get messed up and we'd basically focus on Stone Cold and Triple H. So of course, WWE decided to go with Stone Cold versus The Rock at WrestleMania. Yes. Writing. Now there's nothing wrong with that main event, but we didn't really get what we wanted out of this story. And the story made no sense at all. There was super inconsistencies everywhere. There was little pinholes everywhere in this thing. Like a children's book would have been better than this. So Stone Cold would turn heel and ally himself with Triple H. And they would form the 2-man power trip. What a name. It sounds like a really good electrical company. And as usual, there was no explanation. So what was the aftermath of all this? Well, Rikishi got a main event push, which was really good because Rikishi was a very talented wrestler. But WrestleMania 17, he would suffer an injury. And this would cause him to miss the invasion totally. And he would come back a year later, after the whole hit and run story was over with, and he'd turn face. And Rikishi, one of the best faces ever, because he would hit the stink face on Vince McMahon. The warm, dewy stink face. But he'd never receive a main event push ever again. But don't forget, we did have Too Cool. Now, The Rock played a crucial role in all of this, obviously, because he made every story that much better, especially when Stone Cold and Triple H were involved. He'd headline WrestleMania 2001, and he'd be a crucial part in the invasion angle. And this is where he began to dip his little toes into Hollywood. And we would get the Scorpion King. It's a joke that's played to death, but we gotta talk about the CGI. Triple H and The Undertaker would face each other at WrestleMania. And that alliance he had with Stone Cold, well, that would end because Triple H would tear his quads. Shades of Vince. And he'd be forced out of action for the rest of the year. But it would be a blessing because he would come back and win the Royal Rumble in one of the best shapes of his life. And of course, he'd headline WrestleMania 18. As for Stone Cold, we look back on Stone Cold and a lot of people think that Stone Cold was the best wrestler of all time. Top to bottom, in and out, it's Stone Cold. In the ring, on the mic, it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. Beer drinking, ATV riding, Stone Cold Steve Austin #1. Comment section, let us know. But he seemed to peak at WrestleMania 17, as his heel turn was really a failed experiment. Nobody was ready for him to turn heel. Nobody wanted Stone Cold to turn heel, because Stone Cold was selling so much merchandise, not just to adults, but to kids as well. So to turn him heel was just very, very weird, because he really was the epitome of the WWF fan base. Fans saw themselves in Stone Cold Steve Austin, especially in 1998, because let's face it, the fan base has changed, and in 1998, Stone Cold was really the fan base of what you'd expect from WWF television. Now, he would have a match against Scott Hall at WrestleMania 18. It was pretty forgettable. And 2002, he'd have a falling out and walk out of WWE. And overall, the story just wasn't effective for anybody. Everybody would have already been where they were if the storyline never happened. It gave us a great meme, but Rikishi never got the push he deserved. But I still think Too Cool was successful. Grandmaster Sexy, Scotty 2 Hotty, and Rikishi were really a hot item. So maybe it kinda worked? So do you agree with Stone Cold Steve Austin? Was this the worst storyline ever? Comment section, let us know. Of course, give us a follow, give me a follow on my Instagram, and we'll talk soon.